Welcome to a new episode of the UPEACE Stories. Our story today will relate to the concept of nonviolence and violence. And actually, I will relate this to a true situation that happened during one of our classes at the University for Peace. At the University for Peace, when the students come from all over the world, from 50 plus countries in the beginning of the year, we gave them a course called the Foundation Course. Gave them basic ideas about what is peace, what is conflict, and how to think about it, how to analyze it, the different dimensions that relate to peace and conflict studies. The course is designed where we have a general lecture to all the students, about 150 students, for about 1 hour, followed by seminars, where in the seminars they are divided into groups of about 15 to 20 students, and every group of students has a facilitator, one of the professors of the university. So one day, the session that we were talking about was about nonviolence. And as you can imagine, the concept of nonviolence is something that is very popular with the students and seekers of knowledge in the field of peace and conflict resolution. So we gave the lecture for about 1 hour with some examples and some of the concepts and the theories underlying nonviolence. And then we went to the seminars, and I was one of the facilitators of one of the seminars. So we go in the seminar, and that's when we want the students to share their experiences and share their reflections on the concept. And you can imagine a group of students studying at University for Peace. They were all very motivated and enthusiastic about discussing concepts related to peace and nonviolence. And they were talking about Martin Luther King, Gandhi, examples from their own communities of successful nonviolent leaders who pursued different issues and causes. And it went very well. That's what I expected. And there was this one young woman in the group. She was quiet for the entire 1 hour of the session. And at the end, she raised her hand. And she said, well, I understand all that you're saying about nonviolence, and I really appreciate it, and I do agree with you fully. However, I wanted to share with you that when I was 14 years old, I was sexually assaulted by 2 men. In retrospect, I wished I used violence to stop what happened to me. And she started to weep. The whole classroom was so quiet for more than 1 minute. You could hear a pin drop in the classroom during that 1 minute. As a matter of fact, every time I share that story in any workshop or any class, I hear unbelievable silence. And I always wondered, what is this silence about? And I think that silence reflects the complexity of those issues of violence and nonviolence. Where do we draw the line? What do we call violence? What do we call nonviolence? When is it appropriate that I use force to protect myself? And I call this still within the boundaries of nonviolence? Or is it any use of force is considered violence? And how do I reconcile my ideals about nonviolence with the story of this one young woman and what she had to endure all her life, to the point that she comes back almost 10 years after to say, I wished I used violence to stop this from happening to me? I don't have answers to such questions, but that is one of the great things about our study in peace and conflict. We don't necessarily have to have a concrete answer to every question. Instead, we want to have more questions to reflect on and more realistic situations to see how we can reconcile them with our ideals. So I leave you with this notion and hoping that we can all find ways to achieve what we think is right and just, using nonviolent means, and to know how to contain any violent methods within the boundaries that will achieve our objectives. And perhaps it is very timely to be talking about this issue today, as we are at this time dealing with this situation of George Floyd in the United States, and all the question about the nonviolent protests and how some of them are turning violent, and to what extent we are able to achieve our objectives using violent or nonviolent methods. Thank you for listening, and until next episode, in peace. Amr.